Creating a print from an AutoCAD file is actually pretty easy, but what you have to realize is that AutoCAD has ability to take a viewport. For example, this view is a viewport, and project that or multiple viewports onto your sheet of paper, your layout. So for example, down here we have model or paper space. So for example, right now we are in model space. If I click this one, you see I'm inside paper space. With paper space, you see when I zoom in and zoom out, I can zoom into the page. You also see here two tabs. I can switch between my modeling layout and my paper layout. Now this element here is actually a viewport. I'm going to delete it. Let's go to layout, and under layout viewports, I can create a new layout. So for example, let's do it this way. And I'm going to, for example, select it and then switch this one to model. So that means actually here now I can, for example, like in my 3D object, rotate the view. Think about this one as an additional camera that's looking into my model space. I can, for example, set different shading styles. I can set different views. So let's add, for example, another viewport. Maybe here. For example, here, could set this one to this view, and maybe I set it to shaded. So how do you, for example, establish scale? Let me for a moment go to page setup, because this is very important. Currently, I only can print on 8.5 by 11. For example, here you would select your plotter or the printer, the paper size. What to plot is your layout, that's fine. You want the plot scale to be 1:1, because actually we define the scale inside our viewports. So how do we do this? So let's, for example, click this viewport. And you see down here, if I click on it, there's actually the scale. So for example, here I could say, show me this one at a 1:1 scale. Obviously, my room is too big to fit onto the page. Maybe 1:100. Well, that's obviously too small. For example, 140. You see, there now we start actually getting closer. Or you could also use your mouse, and then there, for example, you get the scaling factor. I can, for example, position this one here, and then I press escape, go to paper, and for example, adjust kind of like everything. I could also, for example, rotate the complete view. See? And I could, for example, maybe adjust this one again, go back to model, reposition it, load. So this is actually pretty nice. One thing I actually have to warn you about, objects are selectable in here. This means if, for example, I move this one, maybe down to here, let's go to model, and let's go to your top view. You see the whole thing got adjusted. If I delete it, inside here, it's deleted. So the 3D views or the viewports here are really just digital cameras of your actual model projecting a certain cutout of your design onto the page. So let's undo this. Now, the last thing. How, for example, can you make one object show in one viewport and one object not show in a different viewport? So for example, here I would like not to see my walls. We do this actually with the freeze one. So you see there we have new VP freeze viewport and viewport freeze. So for example, I can click those viewports. And now that's the third one. Okay, so this one here. So there you see here with VP freeze, viewport freeze, it's actually gone. And you see here, you see it in this viewport. If I click it, you see it's gone. So this way you can actually, on different viewports, show details or hide details. So for example, here I'm going not to show my window frame and door frame, or I'm going to show it. Okay, this pretty much covers most of the basics you need to know at the beginning to understand how to project different parts of your drawing. Top view, isometric view, elevation view, detail views. I mean, you can zoom in, for example, onto your layout page, how to create it. Now, when we create a schedule, we can also create, for example, a window that only shows the schedule. So, for example, let's say I'm just quickly generating the schedule. So annotate, here's my schedule. Okay, and let's say there, oops. Okay. Schedule, of course, the text is way too small. I'm going to make this one here. Okay, this is interesting. Okay, let's delete this one. Let's make one. There. Now this gets bigger. Okay. Now you see this one is sufficiently away from my original drawing. So let's go back to layout. I'm going to create another viewport. Maybe, I don't know, maybe down here, there. Let's go to top view. Of course, no, the icons are kind of tiny, so it might be better to zoom in a little bit. And let's go back to my model space. See, then I can change it. Paper, model, here, zoom in. There, for example, here we see the part, and then, for example, you could adjust it. Yeah, so that's basically it.